Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to unravel the story of money. And it starts, maybe surprisingly, not with accountants or banks, but with a bizarre confession. A confession about a sickness that somehow went on to unite the entire world.
So let's kick things off with this really strange quote. In 1519, the Spanish conquistador, Hernan Cortés, actually said this to the Aztec people. I mean, just imagine trying to explain your entire civilization's obsessive craving for a shiny metal by calling it a sickness.
And you can kind of see why the Aztecs were just baffled, right? Gold was pretty, sure, but you couldn't eat it. It was way too soft for tools or weapons, so why on earth did these strangers crave it, like some kind of life-saving medicine? Answering that question, well, that reveals the fundamental secret of what money really is.
So this sickness, as Cortés put it, was basically an epidemic. And the wild thing is, it was an epidemic that strangely united even the most bitter of enemies.
I mean, just think about the irony for a second. For centuries, Christians and Muslims fought these incredibly bloody holy wars over religious beliefs. But you know what they never fought over? Gold. In fact, Christian conquerors would literally mint coins with Arabic script praising Allah. And Muslim merchants were more than happy to use coins with pictures of Jesus and Mary. Their shared faith in gold was actually stronger than their religious differences. It's kind of crazy.
Okay, so to really get a grip on this obsession, we've got to rewind a bit. Let's go back to a world with no money at all. A world that was totally held back by the massive inefficiency of barter. All right, I want you to imagine you're this farmer. Or, well, you're trying to get new shoes anyway. You grow the absolute best apples in the whole region, but your shoes are falling apart. Now, in your little village, maybe you can trade favors. But what happens when you go to a big market town full of strangers? Suddenly, you've got a serious problem.
And you can see how this just spirals into this absurd chain, right? You're looking for one person, a shoemaker, who just so happens to want your apples right now. But nope, he needs a lawyer. Okay, so you find a lawyer, but she needs a haircut. It's a logistical nightmare. Economists call this perfect match you're searching for the double coincidence of wants. And in the real world, it almost never happens.
And this number right here, this just shows you the insane mental overload we're talking about. In a market with just 1,000 different goods, a single shoemaker would need to know almost 500,000 different exchange rates. Are your shoes worth 3 baskets of apples or 4? What about for sandals? It's impossible for one person to manage.
So what was the solution? Well, it wasn't some big technological breakthrough. Nope. It was a revolution of the mind, the creation of this invented reality, this shared fiction that we all call money.
And this, right here, is the absolute key. Money isn't a physical reality. It's a psychological construct. The paper in your wallet, the metal in a coin, it has no real value on its own. The value comes from the story we all agree to believe in. It's a collective fiction.
And because it's just an idea, pretty much anything can work as money. And history is just full of examples. You've got cowrie shells being used to pay taxes in Uganda, all the way to cigarettes becoming the standard currency in prisons and wartime camps. If enough people believe in it, it works. Simple as that.
And honestly, this is more true today than it has ever been. Over 90% of all the money in the world, we're talking trillions of dollars, it isn't even physical cash. It's just electronic data flying between computer servers. It's the ultimate shared fiction.
Okay, so how do we get from this simple, shared idea to the massive global system we have today? Well, it all hinges on one critical ingredient: trust.
You see, the first real money, Sumerian barley, was pretty easy to trust. I mean, you could eat it, right? It had actual intrinsic value. But the real breakthrough, the game changer, was when we started trusting stuff we couldn't eat, like a specific weight of silver, the shekel.
Then, fast forward to around 640 BCE. The kings of Lydia, that's in modern-day Turkey, they had this absolutely brilliant idea. They took pieces of gold and silver, made them all a standard weight, and then stamped them with a royal seal. And that seal, that changed everything. It was a guarantee.
So that little stamp was basically the king saying this exact thing. It took a simple lump of metal and turned it into a symbol of trust, backed by the full power of the king. It made trade way, way more efficient. And trying to fake a coin? That wasn't just theft anymore. That was treason, an act against the king himself.
And this system, this whole idea of state-backed trust, it got so powerful that it created the first truly universal language, one that was understood by friends and enemies alike.
I mean, take the Roman denarius. It's the perfect example.
People in India, thousands of miles away from Rome, people who had probably never even seen a Roman soldier, would happily accept these coins. Why? Because they didn't have to trust the foreign merchant standing in front of them. They just had to trust that distant, powerful emperor whose face was stamped on the coin.
So this whole system really boils down to two incredibly powerful universal principles. First is universal convertibility. That's the idea that money can basically transform anything into anything else, land into loyalty, justice into health. And second is universal trust. Because we all trust the system of money, literally anyone can cooperate with anyone else on the planet. But, and this is a big but, these super powerful principles have a dark side. In a world where anything can be converted into anything else, in a world where everything has a price, you risk creating a world where nothing is priceless. Yeah, the very thing that makes money so amazing at helping us work with strangers, well, that's also the thing that can start to eat away at the bonds of community. All of a sudden, things that were once considered sacred, things like honor, loyalty, morality, family ties, they can be given a price tag. They become commodities you can buy and sell.
And that's the fundamental shift right there. We go from trusting people, our neighbors, our community, to trusting an impersonal system. We trust the money in their hand, not necessarily the person holding it. And that personal trust that once held societies together gets replaced by this impersonal, but way more scalable, trust in currency. Look, when you boil it all down, money is the single most successful story humans have ever told. It's a story based on impersonal trust, and it's allowed us to build a modern global world, unifying us on a scale we've never seen before. But as this story keeps evolving, it leaves us with a constant challenge: to remember and protect the things that should never, ever have a price tag.